B&B. Being an only child can be hard, but being the older sister to surprise septuplets, well, that can be even harder. Nappies and bottles and stories and piggyback rides. 7 is a lot. Meet Harry and her 7 brothers and sisters, Barry and Perry and Mary and Larry and Jerry and Carrie. Oh, and also Terry. With hard work, humor, and hopefulness, Harry and her 7 siblings overcome hardship and heartache to become successful operators of their very own Hare B&B. This spring, Bill Richardson, Bill Pechet, and Running the Goat Books and Broadsides bring you a story of love and loss, resilience and innkeeping, and outsmarting a cunning trickster, Hare B&B. It's the story writer Michael Winter calls a hair-raising spectacle, and it's hopping to a bookstore near you in April, or order online at runningthegoat.com.
Hello, and welcome to the launch of Hare B&B. We're so happy to be here this evening with you all. Before we begin, and before I welcome the Bills, there's a couple little thanks to be given. The first, I'd like to thank our funders, the Canada Council for the Arts through the Literary Publishing Projects, the Government of Newfoundland and Labrador through their Publishers Assistance Program, and Canadian Heritage through the Canada Book Fund, all of whom very generously support Running the Goat's activities and make it possible for us to make books. I also would like to acknowledge the fact that we are today working from the lands of the unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq and the Beothuk, the original settlers, or the original homelands of the Beothuk on the island of Newfoundland and Labrador, and that we recognize the lands of Nunatsiavut and Nunakutavut, and for the Innu and the Inuit and the Innu of Nitassiwin, and their ancestors as the original people of Labrador. And we're very pleased to be sharing this land with them and work toward reconciliation and honoring their beautiful territories. And I think Bill Richardson was going to offer a land acknowledgement as well.
Sure. Hi, Marty. Thanks so much for that. And yeah, this is such a wonderful occasion for Bill Pechet and for me both. And one of the things that makes it so interesting and Canadian is that Marnie is in Torres Cove, Newfoundland, and we're in Bill's studio in Vancouver on the east side of the city. And this is the traditional and important to note unceded territory of Coast Salish peoples, including the Squamish, the Musqueam, and the Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. And it is an honor and a privilege to be here, and both of those things to be talking with Marnie now.
Thank you. And so already we're getting people sending their greetings. Monica Kidd, Matthew Solis, Linda Granfield, Millefeuille, Maureen Bodie, Michael Shumiater, all saying hello to the Bills, and Sarah Ellis from various locations across the country. And it's really lovely that this is truly a cross-country, across Canadian event. I don't know that Bill Richardson and Bill Pechet need a huge introduction, but I will say that it's been such a wonderful privilege to work with both of them. It's been great fun. Bill Richardson, of course, many of you know from his many books for adults and for kids, and his long career with CBC Radio. And Bill Pechet is an award-winning architect, designer, and a wonderful, wonderful illustrator. As we've seen, his work in The Lady from Kent was just totally delightful. And now we've got Hare B&B, which is an absolute gem. There's the greetings are pouring in here. Paula Martin, Veselina Tomova, Karen Argento. So everybody. Oh, and Casey Pechet, who's saying hi to the Bills. So it's wonderful that all of you are here and saying hello and joining in with us today as we celebrate this beautiful, beautiful book. So first, we'll just talk a little bit about the book, about how it came to be. And it was a real surprise to me to have this come my way. And it's been, as I said, a joy to work on it. Do you want to talk a little bit Bill Richardson about the development of the book and where it all came from? And
Oh, sure. I mean, there were two things that kind of came together. For a number of years, I haven't been there in the last 18 months for every self-evident reason. But I've kind of developed a habit of living half the year in Vancouver and the other half in Manitoba, not in Winnipeg, which is where I grew up, but in the rural southwest of the province, which is a very beautiful and kind of unsung part of the world. And my living circumstance has changed, by which I mean to say I moved from the house where this thing happened to another one nearby. But I was living in Bill, you can attest to this. It's a very beautiful community called Homefield. Tiny. The population of the village is, I'm not sure what it is now. It may be as high as 18. I think at the time that I was in there,
that's in the summer.
In the summer when everyone's home, yeah. But anyway, I was in a house there that was an old hotel, and one day I left the hotel with my dog to go for our walk, and I looked down the road and I saw bounding across the road what I at first took to be deer. They were small. Well, those are deer. They're the smallest deer I've ever seen, but they certainly weren't rabbits. And although I haven't spent that much time with Canadian Wildlife Service commercials, they must be hares. I just deduced they were hares. And so these two things came together: the hotel that I was living in, the ex-hotel, and these hares. And I just started thinking about hares in the hotel and then of course it became Hare B&B. And so that was the origin. And Billy, maybe you can talk, 'cause I've been yammering on about what it was like to start with the illustrations a little.
Sure. Well, I mean, the story was so sweet and also had, a little bit of sadness in it. But what I tried to do was imbue the characters with a sense of depth and also kind of relationships between each other that might illuminate other attributes of the story. I mean, I guess the first thing was to try and find out where they live, or to kind of create an environment in which they would all be running this little B&B together. And so in my mind, this kind of geographic condition occurred that was set in a field that had an old house in it, that also had some plantings around that might suggest it was a farmhouse from a long time ago. And because hares like occupying grassland, it was set in the grassland rather than in a forested setting. And then just through back and forthing with Bill, like every 20 minutes, through text, telephone, whatever, the characters emerged, and we just went back and forth, and Billy made all kinds of great suggestions about where they might be, what they might be doing in this to represent this part of the text or that part of the text. Yeah, it was our first collaboration, really.
Yeah.
This is our second collaboration.
Right. Just in case people are wondering where we are, I think I mentioned that we're in Bill's studio, which is where he does his design work, and Bill teaches architecture at UBC, and then has a design practice which operates out of this studio. And one of the things that Bill is fascinated with, I'll just speak on your behalf here quickly for a second, is honey bears, and the things that you can do with honey bears by way of casting them in different materials, concrete, bronze, whatever. And so there happen to be here around all kinds of honey bears. So yeah, can I just say one other thing before? I'm sorry I talk too much, but I want to say, Marty, that one of the great things, one of the wonderful experiences about working with you has been that, I mean, you come up with such great ideas for all kinds of stuff. And you had the idea that when people pre-ordered the book, they would receive a package of cabbage seeds. I guess this is, and so a lot of people I know have received cabbage seeds in the mail and thank you so much to everybody who has bought the book. But our dear friend Sue Wagner really took this on by the scruff. And she this is the cabbage that she started, and it's been growing in my apartment on the ledge by my kitchen window, where it gets kind of a muted light. It's a ball head cabbage is the variety. But Sue Wagner, bless her heart, fostered 33 of these things out to different people around the lower mainland of Vancouver. So what started in Newfoundland as a seed is now germinating and eventually will become a cabbage here. And maybe Billy, you can talk about the cabbage connection there.
Yeah, why were cabbage seeds sent out is a good little topic. On the front cover of the book is the family crest for the Leverets. And in Latin, you can see that it says Manducata brassica, and Manducata brassica means eat cabbage, or various brassica. And so that engendered the whole cabbage tangent in this project.
And it's been great fun, actually. There's lots of wonderful little cabbage drawings throughout as well. And we'll have another cabbage surprise a little later. But I found the illustrations were just filled with so many wonderful little jokes and details. And I thought that it was a really perfect blending because Bill Richardson's sense of humor and pun and his playfulness with language was really beautifully echoed in the illustrations, where there were some wonderful things like the coyote watching Fox TV and things like that. So it just seemed to me like that their playfulness as well as the sadness really does echo between or resonate between the illustrations and the text. And for me, it's kind of a perfect meeting.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. I mean, one of the exciting things too about being published by Writing the Goat is that I mean, I just love the idea, Marnie, that we're part of this kind of craft production that I don't even know how long you've been at it, but what Writing the Goat does is to produce the commercial run of books like this, or Kimmy and Micah, another of the spring titles, just a wonderful book. Or Vasilina Tomova's the Wall in the Wind, again, just such a beautiful piece of production, but commercially made. But you do these small scale hand press things as well. And maybe I'm curious to know just how active you are with that. I don't know how you can manage to do that and then keep up the press as well. You must be busy, so busy.
I'm not as active as I should be or would like to be, but there's one project that's still getting bound. Kind of looking sideways at my daughter who helps with the binding. And then this summer I'll be printing a new project, which is a really ambitious one. And it's I decided to do it because I didn't know how I would do it. I was counting on a friend to help, but anyhow, it's a poem sequence by Shalan Chowdhury, the Mi'kmaq poet from Nova Scotia.
Oh.
And she's had the poem translated into 12 other languages. And so the book will be in 13 languages, and everything from Wolastoqey and Mi'kmaq to English to Gaelic, Scottish Gaelic to Russian to Chinese. Obviously, I'm not using metal type for this because I don't have metal type for many of those alphabets, obviously. But it's going to be a real adventure to be printing that this summer. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, that sounds fantastic! Beautiful. Billy, my left ear has fallen down.
Oh,
which is like more tragic. No, sorry, I meant this one. Is that?
Yeah, that's your left.
Is that my left? Oh, honestly.
Just a minute, I'll get some tape.
Well, anyway, so it's show business, right? Things happen. What can you do?
We're getting lots of little comments. Catherine Mitchell says, "Congratulations to the Bills and to Marnie and the team for publishing such a delightful book. Are those empty liquid honey bears on your hats?" And yes, you are. You logged on, I think, Catherine, just after they had explained that they were. Monica Kidd's daughter asked, "Is B&B because it's Bill and Bill?" Kate Walker thanks Sue for the cabbage seedlings. 3 now have been transplanted into her front yard veggie garden.
Yay, Kate.
And Sue Wagner says all these cabbages are dreaming of being coleslaw. Lana Shoup thinks the little jokes and the illustrations are perfection, and that what resonates is the humor, not the sadness. Victoria Dickinson can hardly wait to be back in Newfoundland and enjoying a visit to Running the Goat, and I can't wait to see you too, Victoria. It'll be lovely. And Kennedy says the goat never strays far, sad or happy. So it's like a very interesting thing seeing all these comments come in when we're having a conversation.
Well, Heather produced what was the name of the show I did? The Roundup, Richardson's Roundup. And I mean, like truly at this age, like so much gets lost so easily. And we had the goat was a very important kind of totem in that show. So that was another wonderful thing about finding ourselves in the Running the Goat stable was that I've had this, as Heather suggested, that goat connection for a while.
I remember 1-800-SAD-GOAT. I listened to
1-800-SAD GOAT, yeah.
In fact, one of my fondest memories of listening to the Roundup was when you had Mary Ellen Wright talk about singing to her kids. Remember, she's a singer from Newfoundland, and I know her kids. In fact, her kids share a birthday with Rachel, though Rachel's quite a bit older. But so I just thought, oh, that is so neat. Anyhow, it was lovely. Always interesting connections.
Man, oh man. Should we read some of the book, or what do you think?
And we're going to turn my mic off because we're getting feedback.
Okay, so we're going to take turns, Bill, Pechet, and me, reading the Hare B&B text. That's the cover. Oops, it says we'll be here shortly. And then, oh, right. So this is, there you go, the title page. And you can see there's a stork carrying, as storks are well known to do, a little, I'm assuming this is kind of a diaper filled with the leverets, as baby hares are called. And you can see peering up the character who appears on the next page. Our main girl, Harriet. Her name was Harriet, but everyone called her Harry. Harry was an only child. Then, unexpectedly, her mother had identical septuplets. There they are, as Bill drew them. Here, your turn.
7's a lot of work, said her father. Harry will help, said her mother. Harry did.
She warmed bottles and changed nappies. She got the babies up in the morning and tucked them in at night. She told them stories and gave them piggyback rides. Harry loved her brothers and sisters. Their names were Barry and Perry and Mary and Larry and Jerry and Carrie. Oh, and also Terry.
One day, Harry took Barry, Perry, Mary, Larry, Jerry, Carrie, and also Terry for a long walk in their large pram.
I got to say, this is one of my favorite illustrations because talk about what you did there. It forecasts what's going to happen so nicely.
Their house has police tape wrapped all around it in this kind of crazy manner. And you can see them approaching from afar. And then there's a little figure in front of the house who comes up next.
I also love, I got to say, the stroller that you imagined, because it could have just been some big stroller, but it's got a bit of a steampunk thing going on.
Yeah, a little bit inspiration from Dr. Seuss, and a little bit from, steampunk aesthetics.
Marnie was talking about the details in the drawing. I'm leaning forward to point to the image I'm seeing on the screen, and again, one of the little things that Billy comes up with in his wonderful brain is stuff like the bird you see over there with the fishing line. I mean, not to forget, and we haven't really said this out loud. Maybe it doesn't need saying, but it is, after all, a book for children. And one of the things that I remember fondly from my own childhood and the picture books that we had, and there weren't that many of them. The market wasn't as rich then as it was now. I was born in 1955. So, but the books that we did have, it was the little things like that, those little details that really made the book sing. I remember it still. Okay, so, oops. Oh, sorry about that. When they came home, a police officer was waiting. Harry said, "What's wrong?" "It's your parents," said the constable. The news was bad.
A coyote had come knocking. This coyote was a master of disguise. She was dressed as an encyclopedia salesman. Harry's mother and father, who prized education, let her in, and that was that.
So you can see that, I'm not sure how well you're able to see it on your screens, but the coyote who's dressed in this really vivid, livid pink striped suit has a sign that says, a little badge, pardon me, that says Employee of the Month, and her case, her salesperson's carrier case is from the Acme Encyclopedia Company. And of course, she has a pink Cadillac, very Mary Kay-like. Apparently, she's quite good at her job. Harry was distraught. She said, "Why them? Why us? Why here? Why now?" "Sometimes," the constable said, "bad things happen to good rabbits." "We are not rabbits," said Harry. "We are hares, and now we are alone." So that's the first part of the book. And it sets up a kind of theme of identity quest that runs throughout. So we'll look at the rest of the book during our time together. And again, we just want to say that we're so grateful to Marnie and Vesselina and everyone at Running the Goat for taking us on. So what Marnie, what happens next?
Next, we have a couple. Next, we've got a couple of videos to share with you. The first one is Bill Pechet showing his drawing and talking a bit about it. And then the next one is the designer, Veselina Tomova, who is going to share one of her other wonderful skills with us. So a couple of videos for you.
Okay, Billy's going to show us now how he works making his drawings. And Billy, do you want to talk about what you're working on there? I'm going to move around to this side so people can see better.
One of the challenges is, of course, keeping a kind of consistency between the characters, because we want them to always connect from one image to the other. So how you draw the eyes have to be important, their little expressions on their face. The ear shape has to be consistent. And for example, here we have Terry playing the harp, and we want to get her little fingers looking like they're plucking strings. And then want to get her little fluffy tail just the right shape. And then once I have the basic outline, then I start to add in a little bit of shading. So here I'm adding a bit of pencil, just because when I add the color on top, I want her to look sort of a little bit messy in a nice way. And then I take something called a blender tool, which I then add into to sculpt and give a bit of shadow and shape to her face. And she's very serious. She's really serious about her job here. So she doesn't have a big smile or anything, but she does have little whiskers. So we add those in later, a little bit of pencil work. And then she's got tiny little freckles as well, and little eyelashes. There. And then later on, I will add in the color of her outfit as well. Each of the little leverets has their own outfit that shows up again and again in the images. And we want to make sure those things are consistent, even if people don't really think about that, but just to bring out their characters in each image.
Hello, I'm Veselina, and this is my cabbage. Uh, Now I'm gonna show you how to make sauerkraut. Why? Because it's a good thing to do, and sauerkraut it wards off scurvy and is very beneficial for your gut health, and it's also very, very tasty. And all you need is not much actually. You need a head of cabbage, you need some salt, you need a sharp knife, a cutting board, and I happen to have this lovely crock, but if you don't have a lovely crock, you can use any big jar for that purpose. And then it's all in a few easy steps. Chop your cabbage, salt it, squeeze it, squeeze until all the cabbage juice comes out, and pack it tightly into the crock. Then let it sit for 24 hours. Check it the following day. Make sure that there is enough cabbage juice to submerge all the chopped cabbage, and then all you need to do is wait for about a week, and then it's all done and ready to enjoy. Now the best cabbage to use would be the one that you grow yourself. Easy enough. All you need is some cabbage seeds. You plant them indoors, and then you transplant your seedlings outdoors, preferably in a big field, so you get lots and lots of cabbage. And that would be like a heaven for rabbits and hares and Harriet and all the siblings. Who were they? Barry and Perry, Mary and Larry, Jerry and Carrie, and also Terry. They will be all very happy if they have nearby a big field of cabbage. So the moral of the story is eat your cabbage, or as it says here on the book, Manducare brassica. There you go. Bye-bye. Hello, I'm Vasilina, and this is my cat.
That's great. Okay. I am just, we're going to have another bit of reading, and I'm trying to fix that. We're having a technical difficulty on the website. I'm just trying to fix it up because we're offering free shipping for the next week for anybody who enters the coupon code HARE at the checkout. I'm having troubles with that, so we're going to fix that up while the Bills do another reading from the book.
As you just saw, as charming as the day is long, is the book designer. She did the work of deciding what would go where, or how things would be placed on the page, and she is herself a wonderful illustrator and writer. Is my
No, it's okay.
Okay, that's good. She is herself a wonderful illustrator and writer, and I really recommend The Wall and the Wind, which is her story of making her way to Newfoundland. She's from Bulgaria originally. I don't know if, and I think spends lots of time there in the summer still on the family farm. But I'm not sure if that crock, that sauerkraut crock, was one that she brought with her when she came to Newfoundland from Europe. But you've got a story in your family, because your family came from Russia and from Romania, depending on what side. And isn't there some crock story as well?
Yeah, apparently my great grandmother brought a rock with her from Belarus that was her sauerkraut weight rock that she would put on top of a board in order to make the sauerkraut. Some people brought diamonds. Apparently, she brought a rock.
A sauerkraut rock. Well, you never know. They were going to Alberta. Yeah,
Well, you never know.
You never know.
There might not be
There are no rats. Perhaps there are no rocks.
rocks. Yeah.
Marnie was telling us there are no rabbits in Newfoundland, or they're not native to Newfoundland in any case. The hare
That's
is,
correct.
but rabbits not. No.
That's correct.
Okay, so we'll continue on. When last we left Harriet, she was asking, or she was making the observation, we are not rabbits, we are hares, and now we are alone. That night, Harry gathered these septuplets for a meeting. We may be orphans, but we are still a family, she said. To keep our home, we must earn money. But how? Asked the little ones. Mama's and Papa's room is empty. We can take in paying guests. We'll offer a bed at night and breakfast in the morning. We'll be a Hare B&B. I can prepare the breakfast. Each of you must do something to help. So she's got a keen sense of how to monetize the resource that is available to you, in their case, their parents' empty bedroom. Really?
I can dust, said Barry. I can vacuum, said Perry. I can wash dishes, said Mary. I can dry dishes, said Larry.
Let's keep it up.
I can launder linens, said Jerry. I can hang them on the line, said Carrie. I can entertain our guests with soothing music, said Terry, who was learning to play the harp.
Some of Harry's best friends were birds. They advertised by Twitter. Guests arrived. Again, you can see the whimsical stuff that Bill is so adept at with these different things. There was a squirrel attending a high school reunion. There was a skunk who looked like trouble, but was perfectly jovial, and so on. Now, Billy, I'll just ask you, some people have remarked on the resemblance between this skunk and the Hanna-Barbera character from Bugs Bunny, Pepe Le Pew. Was that an intentional thing on your part? It must have been.
Yes, well, let's just say Pepe's making a little bit of a cameo appearance, visiting from another universe of cartoon making. Now we move on. They all liked Hare B&B. The birds tweeted their good reviews. Scrumptious breakfast, comfy bed, soothing harp music, and so on. It was a success.
One evening, quite late, there came a knock on the door. Harry answered. On the porch was a homely rabbit. May I help you? Said Harry. And the canny observer, studying the homely rabbit, might well determine that he, she, they is not everything they represent themselves to be.
I hope so, said the coyote. I'm going to my sister's wedding. I'm the maid of honor. I thought I could make the journey in a single day, but it's getting dark. May I stay at your Hare B&B? Yes, said Harry. Our room is available. And you can see that the speech bubble that's coming out of the coyote's mouth is depicting her catching the flowers at her sister's wedding. But what she's really thinking about is a lovely barbecue dinner.
Thank you, smiled the unappealing rabbit, showing her yellow teeth. We hares must stick together. Harry was surprised. She knew her rabbits from her hares. This was no hare. Watching their guest walk upstairs, Harry suspected this was no rabbit either. So, much still to unfold, but this question then of distinguishing the hare from the rabbit, which is central to Harriet and to her 7 little brothers and sisters, to the Leverets, was of course also central, not so much to me, because all I had to do was write the words. But for Billy, who had to actually come up with the images, and devoted as he is to realistic portrayals, excuse me, it was much more important. It was very important for him. It was central to his work to be able to accurately draw hares rather than rabbits. And I'm very pleased to say that we have with us now Dr. Sigurd Leveritz, who is the authority. He is the chair of legomorphical studies at the Legomorph Institute of Pan-Scandinavia, situated somewhere between Helsinki, Stockholm, and Oslo. And Dr. Leveritz was Bill Pechet's go-to person when he had questions about how best to represent rabbits and hares, or rather hares as opposed to rabbits. And there he is. There he is. He's joining us now via Zoom from his laboratory, and he is also very famous, Dr. Leveritz, for his, apart from his wide-ranging knowledge, for his incredibly spontaneous replies to questions about this pressing question, i.e. rabbits versus hares. So Dr. Leveritz, if you're ready for this interview stage of this presentation, we can begin now. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Are rabbits and hares the same thing, Dr. Sigurd Leveritz? Are rabbits and hares the same thing? That's the question that we want to answer now.
Yes, Bill. Well, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking, and it's a pleasure for me to be joining you here today. And congratulations on the book launch. Yes, are rabbits and hares the same thing? Well, believe it or not, rabbits and hares are completely different species, even though they look alike and are actually members of the same order of mammals called Lagomorpha. However, there are significant differences in physical appearance, behavior, and even Billy, you're covering you're covering the camera. Okay, there are significant differences in physical appearance, behavior, and even lifestyles. Do you have any more questions for me?
Oh, I do. Thank you. How actually are they different, Dr. Leveritz, hares from rabbits? How are they different?
Well, that's another excellent question, and it is the quality of the question, generally. How are they different? Well, rabbits and hares are different from the moment they are born. Baby rabbits, called kittens or bunnies, are born hairless and blind, and they're totally dependent on their mothers. Whereas baby hares, called leverets, which is my name, are born with fur and sight, and they can move on their own within an hour of their birth.
This is really fascinating, Dr. Leveritz. I'm so glad that you were able to take the time to speak to us today. Can you tell us some more about this area of study, legomorphology?
Why, yes, there are so many things to talk about. Hares tend to be larger than rabbits with longer hind legs and longer ears. While rabbits' fur stays the same color all year, hares change color from brown or gray in the summer to white in the winter.
That's amazing. Everybody should have a nice seasonal change of clothes. I bet that's a joke you've heard before. What about diet? What about questions of diet, Dr. Leveritz? Do they like to eat the same things?
My gosh, you're asking all the great questions today, all the questions I love to answer. Rabbits and hares tend to eat different foods, actually. While rabbits prefer softer grasses and vegetables like carrots, hares prefer to eat things like bark and twigs, and of course, both like yummy cabbage.
Of course they do. I bet they'd really enjoy the kind of sauerkraut like Veselina Tomova makes as well.
Yes.
Here's a question I know that many people are wanting you to answer, Dr. Leveritz, and that is, where do they live?
Yes, I did my dissertation on the habitation habits of hares. Where do they live? Rabbits make their homes in underground burrows, while hares make nests above ground. But fun fact, or fur fact, only the cottontail rabbit is known to make above ground nests similar to those of hares.
Ah, I'm learning so much today, Dr. Leveretz. How do they protect themselves from scary predators, like, say, by way of example, coyotes?
Oh, yes, this is another excellent question. Their different living habits make rabbits and hares respond to danger differently. Actually, rabbits prefer to head underground to hide, whereas hares use their longer, stronger hind legs to run away from danger fast, fast, fast.
Quick like a bunny or like a hare, I suppose. I'm going to ask you one final question, Dr. Leveretz, and that's because this book is called Hare B&B, which suggests hospitality. Do they make nice house guests? Is there any difference between rabbits and hares in that regard?
Yes, another wonderful question, and one that I would love to answer for you right now. Are you ready? Rabbits can be domesticated and kept as pets, as we all know, but hares stay wild. This reflects their behavior in their natural habitat, where rabbits tend to be social animals that live in groups, whereas hares spend most of their time by themselves, only pairing up occasionally to mate. Once in a while, however, they do open up small hotels.
Thank you, Dr. Sigurd Leveretz. That was, I feel like I've come away with a brand new understanding of this. I know that the several dozen people who are joining us this afternoon feel exactly the same way, from coast to coast to coast. That you've been able to share with us the depth of your knowledge and of your wisdom means more to me than I can say. I'm also very happy to report, Marnie, are you going to come back at this point to?
I am.
Do you feel better informed now about the difference between hares? Oh, Bill Pechet.
I just picked up the pizza.
Oh, good.
That you wanted.
That's great.
I feel like I have learned an enormous amount. I thank you so much. It was wonderful that you were able to locate such an informed and knowledgeable specialist.
Yes, yeah.
It was just really delightful to meet Professor Leveretz. So we get feedback when both of us are talking at the same time. So I'm going to say that we're going to have a small musical interlude now. One of the things that we did to promote the book was to have a book trailer made by a local animation company. And we were really blessed to have Christina Smith, who's a local fiddler, a wonderful traditional musician. She agreed to do some music for the book trailer. The book trailer opened the book launch, and she was having trouble deciding what tune she knew that would be appropriate for the book launch or for the book trailer. So she ended up composing one just for us. It's called Hare Hornpipe, and she's going to be playing that and a couple of other little tunes that I'll let her tell you about them. And while she's doing that, I'll see if I can figure out what is wrong with my website, because there are a couple of people who are trying to buy the book and are not getting their free shipping. So we'll get it sorted as soon as we can. And here is the wonderful Christina Smith. She's a tradition bearer. Quite literally, she's regarded as a tradition bearer. She has played with everyone and learned from everyone, and is teaching and carrying on the traditions of Newfoundland Fiddle. She's a delight, and she and her husband also serve a nice brace of hair on occasion. And I have been the very lucky recipient of such a meal. So here's Christina Smith. Thank you so much for joining us, Christina.
It's a pleasure, Barney. I don't know about anybody else, but I'm having a really great time. This is just so much fun. So I'm going to play a few tunes that I composed. The first one is called Slide Holland, and that one actually was written for another architect, Robert Mellon, when he launched his book Slide Holland. So the first tune is called Slide Holland. The second one is Trinity Wedding, which was written for a wedding in Trinity, and then I'm going to finish with the Hoppy Hornpipe. So here we go.
That was beautiful. That was so
Oh,
fantastic.
great. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that was so beautiful, and Christina, we're so honored that you composed the tune for the promotional video, and which, I mean, it's so beautifully done, and to hear you just now, the kids you're teaching are so lucky. I don't know how you've been managing during pandemic. I know you're a Suzuki teacher, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? Have you been doing a lot of Zoom teaching? Have you been all online doing that?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, anyway, thank you so much. This was really special.
Thanks for inviting me. It was just such a pleasure. And I love the book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'll take a moment and say that Christina and her partner, Chris Brooks, have been working with Running the Goat to produce audiobooks as well. And they've done some wonderful things, audiobook versions of some of Andy Jones's Jack Tales. And Christina did the musical sound effects, and so she added not only bits of thematic music, but also wonderful, fun effects to sound, like of heads falling off when their giants have their heads chopped off, and distorting sounds so that the giants have weird, crazy voices. And she's brilliant, and we're really lucky to have her. So thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think next up is a bit more reading.
Sure, we'll finish off the story.
Or do you want to hear a few comments before you do that?
Oh, sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so great. So we've had quite a few comments come in. So Carrie Stanton says this hare versus rabbit was so informative. Thank you. Milfure says Dr. Leverett's presentation was fascinating. Paula Martin says we've been schooled. Lana Shoup thinks the addition of the fiddle along with the harp would be so much fun for guests at Hare B&B. Kate Walker says, thank you for this. Lots of fun. I'm getting the book for Nathan's son, Henry, and have to leave now as they're coming for a backyard visit. Congratulations. Brava, love the fiddle music. Clapping here in Calgary. And I think Monica Kidd said earlier that she wanted a sequel so she could get a kimchi recipe. And I think that was probably a comment on Veselina's wonderful presentation. And I will just mention, in case people aren't seeing the comments, I don't think they are, that the Veselina's crock was made by a wonderful potter in St. John's. And her kitchen is filling up with these beautiful crocks that her friend makes. And I'm planning on ordering one now that I know how to make sauerkraut. So all right. Alan Belloc says, looking forward to getting the book into my hot little hands. Regards from your nation's capital. And then we'll go on to the reading. I think the final reading.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what the homely rabbit who is presenting herself as a hare on her way to her sister's wedding has arrived, and Harriet's suspicions have been aroused.
Thank you, smiled the unappealing rabbit, showing her yellow teeth. We hares must stick together. Harry was surprised. She knew her rabbits from her hares. This was no hare. Watching their guest walk upstairs, Harry suspected this was no rabbit either.
Read some more.
Your room, said Harry. Perfect, said the appalling rabbit. Breakfast in bed is at 7 sharp, said Harry. I can hardly wait, said the misbegotten rabbit. She burped. Her breath smelled of meat and barbecue sauce. Good night, said Harry. She closed the door. Something was amiss.
Now, I know that Billy did many iterations, that's a word we say a lot in art criticism,
yes,
of the burp. I'm not quite sure why. This is a very persuasive burp, I think, here, but I'm not sure why you chose that one over the others.
Well, there were a number of different ways to visualize a burp, and we explored many of them.
A fetid burp, what's more. Yeah. Harry put her eye to the keyhole. She watched the hideous rabbit remove her long rabbity ears, then her pink rabbity nose, then her cotton puff rabbity tail. Harry had seen enough. Again, this is, I do love this illustration. You can see that the visitor has got between her toes little cotton balls, and why did you choose that particular shade of nail polish? Pink Madness?
Pink Matter.
Pink Matter. It was Pink
Matter.
Matter. Pink Matter. Pardon me. Yeah, MADDER.
It was the name of the color on the felt pen that I used.
Oh, perfect.
And it's her signature pink. In all the outfits that she turns up in, she's always wearing the same color somewhere.
Harry had seen enough. She woke the septuplets. They made a plan. I think my favorite thing about that illustration is that there's a little a carafe of cocoa that they've got going there, and one of the little leverets is dozing away.
Well, in this scene, the coyote is watching Fox News, and she hears a knock on the door. The next morning at 7 sharp, Harry knocked on the guest room door. "Come in," croaked the beastly rabbit.
Harry entered. On a tray she carried a pitcher and a bowl. "Is that my breakfast?" said the horrid rabbit, who looked truly dreadful. "It is," said Harry, "and here are my 7 little brothers and sisters to meet you." They crowded around.
"Goodness," said the grizzly rabbit, "aren't you the dearest things? Don't you all look sweet enough to eat?" She chuckled, drool dribbled. "And all orphans," said Harry. "We lost our parents to a coyote who is a master of disguise." "The villain," said the monstrous rabbit with great feeling. "Come closer, darlings, and call me Auntie. Come very, very close and give Auntie a hug." "May we, Harry?" said the septuplets. "You may," said Harry. "And did they hug her?" "Well, not exactly."
So this next, this is the double spread in the book. And Billy, maybe you can talk a little bit about putting this together. It's very dramatic.
Yes, well, I don't want to give away the story for those who might not have read, but generally all hell breaks loose. And, they pull off her little pink nose, her fake nose. They remove her ears from her head. They sprinkle her with tickle powder. Terry, the harpist, ties her up with harp strings. And so I wanted to convey this kind of madness of all of these kind of activities happening, and try and give some of the onomatopoeic sounds that would also be associated with what's going on in this maelstrom.
And indeed, what happens here is then elucidated in the following pages. Barry and Perry jumped on the revolting rabbit and tickled her till she roared. Mary and Larry jumped on the repugnant rabbit and pulled off both her ears. Jerry and Carrie jumped on the repulsive rabbit and pulled off her nose and her tail. "Why, Auntie, you're no hare and you're no rabbit either. You're a big old coyote." "Curse you," she snarled, and tried to grab them and gobble them up, but she couldn't. Terry had tied up her hands and feet with harp strings. "And now," said Harry, "it's time for breakfast." In the jug, Harry had molasses, which she poured on top of the coyote.
"Roo," howled the coyote, who prized cleanliness. You should be doing this.
No.
"Roo," howled the coyote, who prized cleanliness and was now a sticky mess. In the bowl, Harry had feathers, which he dumped onto the molasses. "Achoo," sneezed the coyote, who was allergic to plumage. The kerfuffle was so loud, the constable stopped to investigate. "Save me," cried the coyote, who was thoroughly miserable. "Take me to jail, where I'll be safe."
But the constable, who prized open doors over locked ones, had a different idea. They escorted the coyote to the bus station. They secured for her a sandwich and a one-way ticket to the distant riverside town of Alias-on-Grill, famous for its exquisite barbecue restaurants and plentiful costume shops. "Perhaps there," said the constable, "you'll lead a life that brings more happiness than harm." "Perhaps," said the coyote, who was unaccustomed to feeling so sore before noon and wondered if a change of direction might be in order.
The little ones were left feeling jittery. The world they understood was a dangerous place. Be calm, said Harry. Remember, there is nothing a smart hare with a good plan cannot accomplish. We must move forward. We must love each other as much as we can. We cannot be fearful every time someone comes to the door.
The bell rang. A new guest had arrived. He looked like a duck. He walked like a duck. Harry was pretty sure a duck was what he was. And then as the story ends, there's a reassuring scene of the full moon and a friendly looking guest arriving and peering down from the moon, what we can take to be Ma and Pa Hare, still present in spirit, watching over everybody. You know, Marnie, maybe we can talk a little bit, that's how the book ends. Maybe we can talk just a little bit about what happened with the ending, because when until quite close to the actual publication date, it had a more straightforward wrap up, a little less maybe nuanced in some ways, in that what happened was the coyote went to jail. And I remember it was getting close to Christmas, and I kind of woke up in the dead of night thinking about it and thinking about the coyote saying, "Take me to jail where I'll be safe," and thinking, it's not really what a jail is. It's not exactly what anyone would hurry to call a safe place. So I emailed Marnie in the dead of night and said, did we get this wrong? And I've got to say, to your credit, you took the question seriously and were able to make an accommodation to change it.
I was happy to. I think actually the story works better now with the new ending, but it was an interesting process, because we did a bit of back and forth before we got it to one that I think both of us felt was the right one for the story. So that's we're getting lots of comments here too. Lovely, well done from Casey Pechet. Carrie Stanton wants to know, will you be adding another adventure at Hare B&B? And we've got a few questions from listeners too, sort of other questions.
Okay.
So I think we're at the Q&A time now. The first one is from Heather Kennedy, and she says, "What's the best moment?" Sorry. What's the best moment, or the strongest or toughest moment in working together on this co-project? And Monica Kidd has a question that's kind of related. It was, how involved is Bill Richardson in Bill Pechet's illustrations? So maybe that. Oh, look, Rachel's putting them up for you. There you go.
Because we know each other so well and we've known each other for so long, if I had an idea for something that I wanted, that I thought might work in the illustration, I didn't feel any hesitation or compunction about saying to Billy, "Well, could this work?" But this is very atypical for my own experience with working on picture books, where, because I don't draw, once the text is done, it's put into the hands of the illustrator, and the illustrator has his or her way with it. And that's a process that I actually really like. I like being completely abstracted from it. In this case, it didn't seem appropriate, because we see each other every day. So it was something we were going to be talking about, and I did actually have some ideas that I thought might work. But if they were ones that Billy didn't like or didn't feel would work with the bigger picture, and he didn't use them, I don't think I ever took offense. I'm sure I never did. So there wasn't a lot of stress and strain. It's the illustrator's job is to be a translator, to be an interpreter of the text, and to take it in slightly different directions, not just to quote it graphically, but to extend the story in a way. What was your? You may have had a different experience. I'd be surprised.
It was a living hell, really. No, this is really only the second children's book I've illustrated, and I actually had the same relationship with the last author, Barbie Nichols, in The Lady from Kent, where I would send her sketches and we would go back and forth all the time. So I enjoy the reciprocity between speaking with the author about what's going on in their head and all of that. But yeah, Billy had some great ideas. I mean, the cover itself came from Bill's idea that the B&B should have a crest, for example. And so that evolved into, a cover image. And then when we had to design the back cover, we decided, well, if it's the back, you would see the back of the crest. So it's the front and the back. But that theme ended up emerging in many of the drawings. You'll see when the coyote ends up going to Alias on Grill, for example, the very last image of the book, which we didn't just show you, is the coyote is cooking barbecue behind the same sign that is the Alias on Grill sign. And this sort of duplicity between what you see in the front of a thing and what's going on behind it happens through the characterizations of things like the coyote, who's a multi-layered character. She's just fulfilling her role in nature, which is to be a predator. But she does so with a kind of innocence, and she's not that good at it, really. So, but these came out of conversations that we would have, like, what's the backstory? What's the backstory? When did Terry start learning to play the harp? Well, it was last week, because she's only 2 weeks old, that kind of thing.
Well,
I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, it's always that question too about what's the book about. It's like you look at, I don't know, Glass Menagerie, for instance, and it tells a story of a young woman who collects glass animals, but that's not what it's about. It would be, I think, a mistake to assign too much interpretive depth to this. But for me, what the book really is about in lots of ways is about this disparity between the surface appearance and what's there when the mask gets lifted. I mean, it's at least as much the coyote's story as it is the story of Harry and her 7 little brothers and sisters. I always, when it comes to, say, Othello, I'm all for Iago. I mean, I want the villains. So it was fun doing that. Even the author pictures that are in the book, which are pictures of Billy and me wearing hair ears, it's exactly the same joke. You see the front of them and you see the back of them as well, and the back is not very glamorous. So.
We have one more question, quick question, and that's from Carrie Stanton. Will you be adding another adventure at Hare B&B? And then after you answer that, I think it's time to look at the entrance for the Hare's Ears contest.
Right. No immediate plans. Thanks, Carrie, for the question. That's. I'm going to assume it's kindly asked. It probably is. Thank you so much. But no, we haven't been talking about that. It's interesting. I don't think Billy feels. I know he doesn't feel this as much as I do because he's a cheerier person. But at this age, it's you want to pick your projects kind of carefully because there's no way of knowing, right? This is really fun, but I think it's probably okay as a standalone. I don't know that it's calling out for a sequel. When I wrote The Bachelor Brother, the other bed and breakfast book, The Bachelor Brothers Bed and Breakfast, there was a second volume, and then there was a third volume, and each one sold less than the first. A process of diminishing returns that I was quick to point out when the publisher suggested a fourth. And bless their hearts, I mean, truly. But I think sometimes it's okay for something just to be one time. Now,
Although
a movie would be great.
Right, or a musical.
A musical, yeah.
I, however, feel like there is another book in here, and I have we do talk about it periodically.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the side characters could have their own book, for example.
Well,
and there's an emerging industry that Harry and her siblings might enter into. But,
sauerkraut production.
Sauerkraut production.
Yeah, we have a technical consultant nearby, so.
So you never know.
Thank you, Carrie, for the question.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think now, Rachel, you know how Rachel's going to show us the entrance for the Hare's Ears contest, and Bill, you can tell us who these folks are.
Yeah, this is our Arnold, Nikki, and friends. Arnold and Nikki are recent graduates from the School of Architecture at UBC, and they live together in a bubble in a house in Vancouver. And so they sent me this beautiful picture of their hair ears yesterday.
Oh, they're so gorgeous. That was what a wonderful thing to do. Well, I mean, they've got nothing else to do.
And these are other friends of ours, Nicola Ryle and Nancy Bryant, who are both in the costume world as costume designers, and they're currently working on Peter Pan, for example, here that's being shot in Vancouver.
With Jude Law.
With Jude Law,
yep,
as Captain Hook. And they invented these wonderful interpretations of hair ears.
Great. And this is Charlie, who is the animal companion of Jan Coates, the Nova Scotia writer. And he is, she said, a reluctant Easter hare. So those are all, I think, all of our entrants, right, Rachel? And the judges conferred, and they're all so wonderful that we think everybody deserves a prize. So everybody's going to get a prize. And they will be coming your way soon after Bill and I get some addresses. So I think, somebody is saying, would love to see the result of restorative justice on the Coyote as a sequel. Coyote comes back to help with the hare's next business.
We talked about that, actually.
Well, it was when different endings were being explored, that was actually something that was considered. No, I don't think give it away. But it seemed, it was jarring. It was totally kind of jarring with the rest of the book. It made it seem something other than it should have been. So,
but now, we'll get back to you on it.
But thank you. Yeah. And thanks to Monica for the mockumentary suggestion.
Yes.
And I think now it's been a wonderful, wonderful gathering. Lots of good comments and such fun contributions from the doctor of lagomorphic studies and from Christina Smith and Vesselina, and wonderful comments and questions from people. So thank you all so much for participating. Thank you, Bill and Bill, for your wonderful work and for these incredible. I just think this story every time I look at it, I see war in it. And my 92-year-old mother said, "It's a book you need to read many times, isn't it?" I said, "Yes, it is." Thank you so much. Thank you all for logging in and joining us. And Monica Kidd says, "Best online book launch ever." Thanks, Monica.
Thanks, Monica. That's
it's really kind of you to say, and it's been great fun. And thank you so much. And I do wanted to have the last word, you two.
Happy Mother's Day, and Marnie, to you and to everybody else, and just and thanks to Vesselina and Christina, and to you and to Rachel, and of course to Dr. Sigurd Leveritz, whoever he was, and to people who took the time to spend this more than an hour now with us, I know it's people have lots and lots and lots of stuff to do with their lives, and that you would choose to spend the time with us. It's a great honor, and I'll just say once again, a real honor to be published by Running the Goat. So thank you, Marnie. Thank you so much for having us.
Look it up.